Oh, the stories I could tell. Hal wanted me to tell this particular story, and around 1995, I just ended a 5-year stint doing A&R, artist and repertoire at Capitol Records, and started a new gig at a music publishing company. And while at Capitol, as many of you in the audience know, doing A&R for artists, you're a mediator between the legal business side and the creative song searching, producer finding, helping develop artists into what they become for pop culture. And going into music publishing, there were so many divergent paths. You could work at this particular publishing company. You could work in any genre, which was great being in Nashville. And I was in the job about 2 weeks. And at the time, I was also playing in a rock band, and I had a drummer who would call me regularly at work, and I wouldn't take his calls. So he would tell the receptionist, tell him it's Garth Brooks or Eric Clapton. So I was in a couple of weeks at this job, and receptionist says, "Johnny Cash on line 2 for you." So I take the call. "What, Bobby?" And he literally said, "It's Johnny Cash." So it was unmistakable, and he had my boss at the time had told him about this new hire, and me and a colleague were going to go out and talk with Johnny out at the House of Cash in Hendersonville. So he was just laying forth those plans, and so you meet a lot of famous people in the music business, and I didn't think much about it. On the drive out there early one morning, it was very early, and my colleague who's driving starts fidgeting and saying, "What the hell are we going to tell this guy that he hasn't heard before?" And I was like, "What, you haven't met him yet?" He's like, "No." And so I immediately start getting extremely nervous, and in '95, this was a point, Columbia had infamously dropped him, and there was a certain period of what was next, and we get to the House of Cash, and it's filled with antiques they've collected over European tours. Very impressive, very great space. And June was there, and she had just come from the store and was telling us all about her harrowing experience she had had at the store, and we were very nervous, and my colleague and I kept saying, "Yes, sir," and Mr. and Mrs. Cash, and John had this way of putting me immediately at ease. He was like, "Son, were you in the military?" I was, "No, sir." He's like, "Well, let's dispense with the formalities. I'm John, this is June." And June keeps going on about her story, and I happen to look at John, and he was in a black shirt, black slacks, and black socks, very casual. And he gives, as June is going on and on, I happen to look at him, and he gives me this exasperated look, like, and he summarily, very politely, June, me and the boys are going to talk shop, and he asked us if we want coffee, and I think he would just buzz Reba downstairs and ask for a pot of coffee. Well, then he gets up. I say, "Sure, that would be wonderful." It was very early in the morning, and he makes us a pot of coffee, and I felt immediately bad. And at this point in his life, he had tremors. So watching him make coffee and hand me coffee, and my colleague, it was just immediately he puts you at ease, and you come to realize someone like John and why we were there. It's all about trust. When you work with attorneys, label people, they all pretty much do the same thing. It's who do you trust? And at this point, John was asking me pointed questions about a producer who had been approaching him, Rick Rubin, and Rick had a great track record. He just wanted to know, and knew that me and my colleague didn't really have an agenda when it came to Rick Rubin. So the songs that he was mentioning that Rick wanted him to cut were not your usual tunes. Nine Inch Nails, Soundgarden, Tom Petty, some other ones that didn't make the record. And you know, I in a very, to shorten the story, producer artists are about trust, mutual respect. So I told him about how what Rick had done for the Cult and brought them back to their essence, and the Red Hot Chili Peppers with Blood Sugar Sex Magic, and brought them back to who they were, and these were phenomenally successful records. And he still had this you know, look, but he would twitch his eye when you could tell he wasn't quite buying what you were saying. So there again, it boils down to trust, and that's ultimately the point of what any of us do in the music business, and in dealing with developing artists, whether they be new or already legendary, iconic artists like Johnny Cash. And him, what he proceeded to do with those records that he made with Reuben, I think firmly established him as the icon we all know today. And he, looking back at the time, I didn't appreciate it, but now, very human, very real person. The people he surrounded him with, attorneys, business managers, it was about trust. Who do you trust? That's the point.